Yes, I think we are
Yes,
on
yes.
now.
Yes, now everything is settled. Please continue. Sorry for the interruptions.
No
I
problem.
Gautam ji to continue his presentation.
So, so my background was more to do with all sorts of high-end embedded systems used in medical, used in telecom, and also a lot about miniaturized electronics. And when I really wanted to start things on my own, I could see that there was a need for mixing these two very disparate streams. Miniature electronics was going the consumer way, and the medical electronics was just staying as a legacy. Even till date, there are almost 80% equipment used in medical, which are all legacy designs, 30 years, 35 years, and mostly perpetrated by MNCs that there's no need to change since they are doing the functions that they were designed for, but also because we have always kept ourselves as a low cost market or cost sensitive market, and because of which they have always
Recording in progress.
I think there is an interruption. Gautam, any problem? Friends, bear a little while. There is some connectivity issue. Gautam will join in seconds.
No, I'm back here. I don't know how it dropped, but yeah, just
Okay, go ahead, please.
yeah. So so as you see, the whole idea was always to merge these multidisciplines, and prior to COVID, we were working on different types of sensors, but COVID actually just brought everything to an urgency that was never to be seen before. And what we designed is what I'll present to you today. And we essentially do, I don't need to tell anyone that the entire basis of COVID treatment was to keep people at home, so that only the most needful reach the hospital. And the whole concept of telemedicine existed since 20 years in some form or the other, but they were not, doctors were not ready to bite in, to say, so they say the least. And that's where we decided that we should now provide a sort of a solution, and not just a product. It's actually a complete solution where people can adopt such technologies very easily. A little bit of a background, and this is a very informative slide. What can you do when you uh, uh, pick up uh, these the data from the body? And so this sort of picture kind of gives you different things. There is accelerometer data. Those who are from the electronic background, they will understand pretty well that there's the sensors that are involved. There's an accelerometer, altimeter, a camera, the ECG, electromyograph, electroencephalograph. These are, the ECG is more about the heart related. EMG is actually muscle related, and EEG is actually brain related sensor pickup from the skin surface, and trying to make sense of what's happening below the at the potential level, biopotential level. Electrodermograph for GPS, and microphone, oximeter. Oximeter, of course, everybody knows now, and pressure and thermometer. Now, the various ways this can be embodied is, EEG needs headbands. For all the other things, like a microphone, oximeter, or things like that, accelerometer, you can have badges or patches, as we call them. uh, the smartwatch category actually is quite leading. It's called a wearable, but apparently, it's not something you wear really. We would go deeper into the terminology of a wearable as we come past. And then all the other things, they are now created sensors in the clothing itself. There are many experiments going on in the world. It's not at all area that has seen full enlightenment of what can be possible, what is the correct way to do things. As long as you see now, it's only the watches that have garnered the attention, but do remember they are not at all medical grade stuff. So one of the main things that my presentation is that it's all about medical grade. If you want to make the it in healthcare, you cannot take a consumer device and apply it in healthcare domain. uh, so where does the somebody is actually annotated on the screen? Any idea how to remove this?
Some people are purposely doing it, so we ignore.
You can actually go to view options and say remove annotation.
Okay.
Are you in presenter's view?
There are some hackers in this kind of a.
If you are in presenter view, then you can do that easily. But in normal view,
I
you have
am
to switch to
actually
presenter view
presenting.
then.
Yeah, I'm actually
Okay, then-
presenting, but what is it? It's going to then show up on each screen. So I just wanted to see if we can. So somebody suggested, removing the annotations, but I don't see.
Try right click and see whether you get any menu. On the slide, try right click on the slide. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying that.
Pointer option. Yeah. So zoom in previous, start subtitle meeting.
If it is not happening, ignore, because there are some children who try to hack and do this.
Good, it's gone.
Yeah.
Right. So there's one thing, I'll just disable annotation. That is one of the things. Okay, thanks. So it's a great idea to actually look at the area of work that I'm really an expert at, and that includes what is called as digital health. And if you see, there's a great timeline that's drawn on the x-axis, right, from 1970s to 2020 year. And of course, this is a picture that existed pre-COVID, and this is an unrelenting march, and especially in the American or the European developed countries, healthcare is moving at a extremely rapid pace to create or reach these goals. So what does this really have is that it has a complete collection of wireless sensors, mobile connectivity. It's actually a fusion of all the stuff that technology can go and integrate with that in the medical domain. And if you see, many of them are are already much in use. Like genomics actually was the first flag bearer of technology entering seriously into the medical domain. And then wireless sensors are trying to make they are moving into the same area. Imaging is extremely tech heavy now. So much so that in a few years, all the analog technologies will be replaced by digital technologies. Already are replaced, but they'll become faster and better. And with the era of ML, you are seeing a lot of companies providing automated diagnosis on imaging, which is also a result of the consumer trend for image-based ML. Where does all of this shape up? So earlier, only the disease could be detected, only detected, not even diagnosed. A condition could be termed as a disease from all the measurements. And if you remember, even the blood test used to be fairly long process. From there, around, and I'm seeing this in the last 15 years, more or less. Earlier it still used to be out of reach of a country like India, and very expensive outside in the outside world. But then that has reached to slowly moved on to diagnosis, which started in India. The likes of Thyrocare providing technology platforms and large scale adoption of remote labs. Diagnosis became much easier. Management started with the era of mobile phones, creating apps and getting connected to the doctors. So at least doctors could inform, or doctors could be informed of what is happening. And because of this, even the hospitals have taken up IT as a necessary backbone infrastructure, which is why management of patients, management of records and all have now converged and reach a certain level of maturity. Where all of this goes as usual is, how you have to predict what's going to happen next using all the data that is coming to you, and essentially end up in not having people to come to the hospitals in the first place. So prevention is the ultimate goal. So also, certainly in India, I have seen that all of us are mostly taken up by hypes and hype cycles. So even in the pandemic, there were these bunch of videos that would be circulated. And by the way, I am, since left, right, up, down, and center, mostly people know me as the person doing some sort of always being in the medical or biomedical innovation field. I am the go-to person to forward videos in this area. So I am pretty much kept aware by my entire audience itself as to what's happening. And then I am always appalled to see that even in the heights of pandemic, we have videos where serious people make videos saying that this is the device that will do X and X measurements. I mean, even in the pandemic, there was this guy who circulated all those videos, and the leader, the CEO of Your Story created a video saying, this guy has a wonderful device and things like that. So India has always wound itself up in the, in what we call as the drum roll of hype. Somebody sending a video is all we need to just clap our hands and eat our hearts out, saying, oh, India has another progress. But apparently the only check you can do if you see this is what is happening on the ground. Are those devices really reaching the patients, and are they making a difference, and are they in the hands of the caregivers? And this has always in the US, thankfully, this is a short cycle. They actually go from these technology triggers to inflated expectations and disillusionment. It's all a very democratic process in the US. And you can see that out of all of this, whatever makes light of day is really something that even the world is cannot say no to. So this is, I mean, they reach the slope of enlightenment much and much earlier, and then they spread it out all throughout the world. So it is something to be imbibed as to how developments need to happen in this very dynamic area. So what would we do? Because on the left hand side, you have to understand very immediately what happens when a certain disease sets in. You have to do a lot of reading. You have to talk to a lot of doctors. You have to look at what are the guidelines given by the government, and then you realize that we could drill down that temperature, cough, fatigue, activity, geofencing, and oxygen saturation were all the parameters that was somehow were being put as a boundary conditions for managing COVID at in-home quarantine. So in fact, I don't need to, and this would have been tough few years earlier prior to COVID to explain each of these things to you. But I am very sure nobody in the audience is left unaware of what each condition means. What is temperature for in COVID, cough, so fatigue because of low blood oxygen, and why people need geofencing because they need to remain in their houses and not spread particular these the disease far and wide. And all of this, so how do you actually solve and create around this problem? So what you see is what we created uh, as a patch. So now the patch is basically a stick to skin sensor, and you see two versions. It's one of the on the left side is the preliminary version, not the preliminary, it's in fact the first version we did, and we put it out to market as well. And do remember that it was all done at the peak of lockdowns, through lockdowns, and it was a humongous task, to get materials, to get designs done, to get PCBs done, and things like that. And the initial thought process was always that since COVID was so much of a disease that could spread easily, you design a disposable sensor, and you go along with that conviction. And by the time, again India hits you and says, no, no, for whatever price you are giving, why throw it away? Why not have things like that? But this comes in hindsight. So we did create the first lot of sensors that were disposable, and those were also put out to market. And if you see, all the specs that the sensor brings with him are, the compactness, and see, one of the beauties of electronics is that if you have the right design thinking attitude, you'll end up making things that are very ergonomic. And that's the need of everything in biomedical, because it's in the end, the application area is the human body. So you yourself are a human, and if you have the sensitivities to actually grasp what would happen if you do something that's not comfortable, and something that's not easy to use, you would discard it immediately, because it's your body in the end, and nobody can actually, if you are in discomfort, no one in the world can actually force you to use technology. So if you see, we did create plethora of features into this kind of development. And to be honest, if there wouldn't have been a decade or plus more of experience, or a couple of decades of experience in this, this is definitely not someone can attempt in short periods of time. Having said that, the battery, the first of all, it's just weighs 10 or 20 grams because it was to be stuck to the skin. And how do you actually create measurable impact by just having whatever data can be picked up from the sensor? And all the construction was done with medical grade components, and that is a big sensitivity. So all those who do supply to defense and all, I always like to interact with them, because their benchmarks are always higher than anybody else just doing normal electronics. Medical is also equivalent. You have to have that antenna in your mind that anything you do here is essentially, you have to think US FDA. Actually, they are one of the reasons they are at the top of the world in terms of compliance is because they set their standards high. They have always ensured that if a person purchases anything off the shelf that they have certified, he has no reason to doubt its safety, its efficacy and things like that. But in India, unfortunately, we are way off that mark. But just like defense, you need to be sure that you are very accurate, because in the end, somebody's life might be on the line based on your designs. And also in terms of safety, you need to know what all electrical parameters can go wrong and what can happen at the when once this kind of sensor is stuck to the skin. Essentially, and then see, one part is the engineering design, and that itself takes a whole lot of thought and effort. Right? But the other part is you can't just make these small stuff and just try to sell them and make people look at how they would rather deploy them or use them. So one of the main things when you are running companies is you have to bring out end-to-end solutions for things like this. So if you see, you then have to look even at the software as a product. So you have to bring in so many aspects that can make it also worthwhile for people to engage. So if you have AI enablement on the data that comes in, you have to have safety and security as a clear inroad. You have to have alert systems, all the stuff that you would expect from a good dashboard. So and other thing was, as we got the time, as we also started raising some funds, we immediately shifted to a more sustainable design. As you see on the right, that design is actually uh, completely reusable. We designed a charger for it. We designed so many other things that went into it again. And so one of the things is you don't get hung on to what you did as a first design. It's actually an agile methodology used in software, that your earlier versions have to be literally disowned or thrown out of the window. It's very tough to do in hardware, but you need a lot of ecosystem support, a lot of teamwork to actually attempt that. And we could, and it takes time. There's nothing that can happen at microelectronics, though they look small. There's a bunch of things that that require detailed attention, and that's where the newer design came in. And there's so many aspects that it is actually assembled without a single screw. And those are the needs of of the medical domain, because if you have screws or metal jetting out, and then there is alcohol used to sterilize it and stuff like that, there's so many other aspects and leakages. So we've done fair amount of R&D and brought it together. Again, this was uh, kind of this came through to reality in the second lockdown. So uh, another big learning is how do you actually operate uh, core engineering stuff in work from home scenarios. So that was one of the learnings. In fact, most of our product designers or the onboard product designers don't even stay in Pune. They are in Nashik, they are in Mumbai, and both of them had to be then coordinated remotely. So all in all, this is the end product, with the sensor enclosure, and this also goes into the product design aspect. From the uh, again, as I keep saying, as a solution, software is as important in the medical IoT domain as the hardware itself. So if you see, there is a good portal which allows full screen management of people, and then you have these what we also call business intelligence in normal stuff, but in medical these are cohort dashboards, as they're called. So you get a view of what all is underlying, and the GIS layer is also a part of the entire thing. So when you do this, all of this, you have to look at what all they can look at. You can look at people with high temperatures on the GIS. the coughing, the geofence, and all the asymptomatic. So single bird's eye view. Till date, actually, I am not sure if there are any processes by the government, though it is always there in the central government guidelines. And of course, different views that at the level of public health and pandemics. These are the views that provide guidance to the users. So a little bit about the technology stack. The design philosophy is always divided between patient care, data care, and sensor care. Now, patient care is obviously what is topmost priority. As you saw, so many things that you build into systems. And data care is, how are you making sure everything is secure, everything has worth the worthwhile the data that is archived, and can it be mined later. And sensor care is, of course, the aspect that your sensor has to have a lifespan of 3 to 5 years without requiring. By anyway, whatever we design typically is not serviceable at all in the field. So most of the times it is really apparent that if there is a breakdown, but the other part is this is all 20 grams, 30 grams. So it's just a no-brainer to send devices back into to the company, and that is the basis of all our after sales also. So the first one is to make them so robust that there is no case for failure. A failure analysis is extremely high level. And again, a lot of experience is put into that to, having seen so many cases over 20 years of different kinds of devices failing in the field, talking to people who do maintenance on a day-to-day basis, though they don't have these same devices, but if you talk to them, they keep telling you about failure points, what happens to these devices. And engaging with stakeholders is one way to create correct engineering design. So this is has always been the basis. I actually tell people to have these kind of philosophies in place, so that you can look at each aspect when you are designing any new product in medical and or otherwise also. But you need to get your buckets of thought very clear and address each one individually. So and not take any one of this for granted, because they are the indisputable deliverables for what you design and put to market. One of the main things that prohibits people from easily attempting medical is this simple screen. As I think of it, one simple patch, which is probably 20-30 grams and just about 2-3 centimeters in length, is requiring so many of disciplines to get to work for you. Okay, so it's the in a way it gives a great kick to design stuff like this, because unless you are aware of the principles in each of these sectors, you will not be able to bring out complex designs. And that is something that I keep also kind of requesting to academics to focus on, that all product design is multidisciplinary. So I myself now, one of the things that I wasn't very well aware was mechanical design or plastic molding and things like that, or what do you call as additive manufacturing. And pretty much at the end of this product, I can easily say that I understand mechanical design and additive manufacturing to extremely high level, and also not requiring the amounts that are exorbitantly charged by many of the consultants in this area. So if you see, you have I'll have to write, chemistry, you need to understand what should be your power source. You have to look at different batteries and look at the ones that can sustain something to be stuck to the body. You have sensors as well. That's a core of the whole thing. But it's unfortunately if you see, it is probably 20% of your entire design, and probably the simplest part if you are an engineer. One of the main things is biocompatible adhesive. What do you stick to skin? Because if you start sticking something to your skin, you'll realize what a big area of expertise that is really. Very unfortunate part is nobody in India really, as a company, also is good at making biocompatible adhesives. So 3M, Henkel, these are companies that are the only suppliers, and they're not great in terms of wanting to promote Indian industry. So they want you to create end products, but they are not very keen on base technologies to be handled. So and remember, I mean, as an innovator, I reach out to a lot of researchers as well, NCL and stuff, and as usual, in spite of being very optimistic, I do end up with just dealing with these 2, 3 companies and trying to make my go-to market happen. So telecom part, wireless telecommunication, the power requirements, the area, then there's mathematics, mechanical. I think the rest are fairly self-explanatory, but it all is a factor of having 1 or 2 people to understand what will happen on the variance of each section that you see here. And last but not the least, you have computer science again. You have to tell the programmer, dictate to the programmer how the app will work, how will it work. You just can't put any of this across as a third party. And I've seen many of these third party outsourced tasks to make the main company suffer in belonging, because they just think that somebody else will do it for them, but it never happens. So you've got to have all these disciplines in your control. So what is the outcome of all of this? The um, like one of the reasons why the wearable will exist in the future is because it shows that there is great promise in its overall impact. Not just physical impact, but also end user impact. So and this, if you look at your wristband, you are not going to see these impacts. This has to be in the solutions that we provide holistically. Otherwise, none of this happens. Otherwise, these bands are available for 2,000, 3,000 rupees. What impact are they making in reducing clinical visits or reducing the cost of healthcare? Nothing, because they are not really concerned about what you do. They are just riding on a certain market hype where everyone is saying, no, I need to know something about my body, which is good, because when you give a serious application, the same people are at least open to accepting such solutions. And the quadrant that all of these technologies will work on is for health and disease tracking and treatment effectiveness, and both are for caring, remote care at home. Early detection and clinical decision making enable will reduce the cost of healthcare tremendously as we go forward, because the later you are diagnosed, the more the costlier in fact, the more experience the doctor you require. So there itself you start requiring high-end personnel who will only charge you higher, because that's apparent. I mean, the more the experience and expertise, the more their consulting fees. So that is just one part. There are other, the drugs cost, the medicine cost also significantly increases. And one of the main things that you see in COVID is you have to keep people out of the hospital. Not all people need hospitals, and not all hospitals need all sorts of patients. So hospitals are, pretty much the last, uh, it's an escalation level area. Okay, so it is where people cannot be treated at home, cannot be treated by normal medical personnel. should reach hospital. Whereas the picture now is that anybody with whatever minimum thing he tries to reach a hospital, and that's the gap that technologies are going to slowly fill in. And I'm pretty sure insurance is going to play a big part. Insurance companies are going to play a big part in this. So so this is the ultimate thing, and in the end, all of this put together eventually will give you healthier individuals, people who are aware of their own disease or illness, and or are proactive, and then they are creating the entire paradigm for the doctor to operate in spite of being at home. So that is one of the reasons, and finally we owe this, even as Indians or even as world citizens, we owe this to our generations to come. This is one of the I work extensively with social organizations trying to use technology to further healthcare, and this is one of our camps in rural areas. And essentially, we should be feeling privileged that in urban areas we really have access to a lot of stuff, to doctors in the first place. And but rightfully, we need to look at our younger generation to answer this question. We've just kind of scraped the surface with the right to education, but our overall citizen goal should be to have enabled the right to health for anybody and everybody who's requiring care and attention at the right time, at the right place. Thanks. That's all I had to present today. So I can take questions if there are any.
What is the commercial aspect of this costing and the cost of production, and let's say the market price?
So we work on B2B basis. So we are not open to consumer pricing as such. So all our B2B contracts are for internal pricing. So I would not have exact numbers for you that I can discuss openly.
Okay, so
Sorry.
this you are selling to the hospitals. So they are your main clients.
No, actually, our main clients would be people who sell to hospitals. Okay, so because as a tech company, more oriented to making the technologies happen, we don't go to market. Though we create the solution, but we are always in a area where we work with channel partners more, and with their go-to-market strategies. So if you want to buy it off the shelf, it might not be even available right now. But our typical conversations will work with healthcare providers and service providers. And hospitals actually are the only ones we think are part of that ecosystem for delivery. Actually, they are the most, they are the ones with the least amount of time to look at this kind of solutions. So there are others who deploy these on their behalf or create separate layers of delivery, and those are the ones we actually work with more deeply.
Okay. So how many of these are out there on the field, and what is the general performance or the feedback?
So with COVID waning and all, we've seen a drop in numbers for the COVID part, but actually we have a complete roadmap in place for applications of the platform. So by whatever you saw was actually is actually designed as a platform. There are multiple other devices in line, and one to mark probably next month will be in the market more openly with our next product roadmap. So this COVID one is slightly now in lack of favor. We sold about 500 to a channel partner, and we've actually moved on, in one way or the other. We are looking to monetize for any possibility of the third wave. But in a way, the COVID story from a market. So it's like how people are now not looking for ventilators or oxygen concentrators. The story has remained at that. So, and we don't keep insisting people, you still have to have COVID, because as a platform, it was always destined to move on to the next use case. So we are on to our next use case that I probably can't, I'm not too early. It's too early to discuss that on a public forum.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Gautam ji.
I have one question.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and you also give comment, Vijay.
One question is, Gautam, the medical devices, when you design and manufacture, you are required to be compliant with several standards like ISO 13485 and ISO 62304 and so on. So what is your experience in doing all that, or you do that in the next phase?
Yeah, so so I have been also associated with BIS and the healthcare arm of BIS for quite a number of years, and also with the newer MDR that came in 2017, which required it made it mandatory. But I have given this out on many forums with the stakeholders as well, that it's actually, the policies are okay, but the implementation is again at fault, because there is no go-to method to get these done faster. In fact, we always so this design is CE compliant, okay, and but right now, if you want to get a CE marking done for medical devices, the original organization in Europe has actually upped its consultant fee as well as registration fee. So again,
Right.
it's like the usual quotes are in 8 to 10 lakh rupees. If you want a very genuine CE certificate, I'm not talking about any fly by night or just another one. But so and in terms of ISO, so CDSCO, the drug authority, which used to do pharma compliance, it was given or is given the mandate to do the device compliance also. So now they have people who understand only the pharma aspect, so they try to imply the same things, that you should have 10,000 square feet, or that is the thought they came with. But as things moved, and thankfully there is a fairly receptive innovation cell in the center, or the science technology cell in the center, who relay the fact that startups or small companies cannot invest in this kind of thing. So then, if you ask me, currently CDSCO says, as long as you inform us, please go ahead to the market with the best of your moral guide, in the sense that please don't sell anything that's harmful to the people and things like that. And this has unfortunately been the way our industry has been operating, and there is a lot of pressure for them to create a very friendly sort of atmosphere to get all these certifications in lesser price and in a more straightforward way. The rest, see, since I'm a biomedical expert, I make sure that, as you mentioned, so I know all the requirements of these things. So we make sure that whenever we pick up the input materials for this, they are already compliant to that area. For example, the adhesives that I mentioned, they need to be ISO 10993 compliant, and those I make sure that the certification already is in place when we take them in as input material. Same with the electronic sensors also. There are, like, just like the defense grade, there are medical grade of the same sensor. So once you pick those up, they come with the the calibration data, the certification data, that these are medical grade. So you create that and you just keep waiting. Right now, see, there is no big, there's no regulation that states that you can't sell at all. And everybody works with that. And since they are all serious players, they look at, what best can we do? Then we provide calibration certificates, NABL, NABH. We know what they will look at if this is placed as a device. and then we provide those. So what happens typically is if auditors do question, you can show all of these, compliances as such that can be done easily in the existing system, and that kind of fulfills the criteria right now. But you rightly pointed out, it's not a easy task. I have made this apparent to many other stakeholders as well, that it should be easier than it is right now.
Yeah, and one more point is eventually if you want to go to USFDA and so on, you need to submit the so-called design history files to them, which means you need to maintain documentation even at this stage, whatever, whether you want to apply or not, which cannot be created post facto. That is one of the issues that people sometimes face.
No, so that is basic quality management guideline that one should follow anyway. So QMS standards, it's also called QARA, Quality Assurance Regulatory Assurance. So that unfortunately has never been our strongest point. But again, I said that I am fairly aware of this. And even if not US standards, US FDA, ISO 13485 itself suggests that you should have all these processes in place. Or internal
Yes,
documentary evidence in place, and that definitely is already ready with us as dockets, and it is something we and to be sure, pointing out this, I mean, that's also one of the sensitivities that any company working in this area needs to have on board, that eventually you will need all of this and it can't be done in retrospect.
Hello, I am Ramesh Telang. Do you have blood pressure monitor for 24 hours?
Yeah, ambulatory blood pressure monitor. So I have been always put forth this requirement with all through my 18-20 years, that do you have ambulatory blood pressure. Now there are many commercial aspects that do not let us get into that area, simply because the blood pressure monitor you pick off the shelf is just 1,000 rupees, and it, for an indigenous manufacturer, it never creates a great use case, because that's the only other, everybody is getting it at 1,000 rupees, then you can't have it's a commercial decision, not really a technology decision. And and the one we would like to design is having miniaturized size, and that would require a much bigger larger volume play in terms of getting its cost reasonably there. So I am still waiting. In fact, there are, we have such a big requirement list that I am always open to people who have developed smaller models. Okay, so not the same module that is available in the market, but something significantly separate that can be used in ambulatory areas. We can actually take that up and create a solution around it with due sharing of revenue along with anybody who comes along. So
My
this is
point,
an unanswered. I keep telling this, that it's quite a great problem statement for university departments to take up. Create a miniaturized blood pressure model.
I have been having a problem of at night, midnight, nocturnal blood pressure going up.
Right.
So this outside device like Omron, etc., you
Yeah.
have to physically take it. But when you are in deep sleep, there is no way.
No,
Hello?
actually, these devices do exist. I mean, most MD, so there's something called ambulatory blood pressure monitoring. It's also provided as as a service by labs also. So do look out for those. Those are, I mean, they charge you about 2,000 rupee per day or something like that. But it's not that it's not there. It's just that we didn't go into it because of obvious commercial reasons.
Because this is need of the hour, because then only you can go back to the doctor and correctly tell him what are the symptoms and get your blood pressure medicines readjusted. So I am suggesting
Hello.
Telang sir, you have muted your mic. Okay, any more questions?
I think that's
Any more questions, please?
yeah. I think that's all.
I think there is some problem with connectivity of Mr. Telang.
Now, in between there was a call, so this thing got dropped. Now I had reconnected.
Yeah, go ahead, please go ahead.
No,
Now
no, that's fine. I understood his viewpoint. But if you have, if you are taking the help of a good MD medicine doctor, he already has these tools with him. So if you have observed yourself, then you might as well go and opt for this kind of ambulatory blood pressure monitor for at least a couple of days and get your diagnosis done.
yeah, that's why I was asking. Even if it costs up to 4,000 to 5,000 rupees, it will be worth individual buying that one.
No, it's not costing that much. That's the problem. And it just using it, the doctor is going to charge you 2,000 rupees per day. Okay,
Yes.
so it does not cost 4,000 rupees definitely. And
No. Individual, if I can have it for at about 4,000 or 5,000 and wear it.
that's the no, that's what I said. That level of affordability. See, it's those machines are sold at even 1 lakh rupees outside. Okay, and 4 and 5,000 is what India would always like to have, because it will buy the normal stuff at 1,000 rupees. So this disparity is always, it's ends up being social service for a company who wants to be in this space. So that's where it just the it is available as a service. So it works best that way. But then again, the every person who needs it doesn't get it. So it's a catch-22 situation.
The ambulatory blood pressure monitor device is available on Amazon for 2,000-3,000 rupees. You can check it out.
Okay, thank you.
No, I am not sure which one you're referring to, but the ones that doctors use, are always upwards of 50,000, 60,000 rupees.
Right.
Medical grade.
There are some low-end ones which are okay for personal use.
No, this is where, we try to just, what Mr. Rabde said in the beginning. You always look at the Jugaad alternative for these things. So medical devices are absolutely, and this is what has brought us great infamy in the world market. We just try to put something up and say this is our solution to the world problem in the Indian context. And none of the doctors even, otherwise they would have just, the doctor would have told you, go and buy this one. Okay, it doesn't work that way. So you be very sensitive to what you are reading and what is the accuracy and medical outlook that this sensor has, and what are the basis they are using for it, and just get your doctor to vouch for it. Okay, if you want a real world example, don't take my word for it. Just ask your doctor if it will be, should I use this, and will you prescribe me medicine based on the results of this device? Okay, as simple as that.
Correct. Right.
So please don't ever refer. There's everything available in the world. What is the need to make anything again in India? And Amazon or anything. Like, in fact, forget Amazon, Alibaba, which is banned now, or AliExpress. It was a whole list of medical junk that was supposed to do all the stuff that you are saying, and available for not even that much, even 500 or 600 rupees. What change did it bring to the medical aspect of the world? You still suffered badly in COVID.
So I think most of the questions are over, friends. It's 11 o'clock. I will take the last question if at all is anything is there. Okay, so there is no question. I must thank Gautam Morey for this wonderful presentation today, and which is a really need of an hour. I'm sure Indian industries will come forward and start working in the direction of bioengineering as well as medical electronics. I must thank all the participants today, and actively participating. Question and answer session went very well. The next meeting will be on 3rd of October, where our Mr. Vijay Ghate will be presenting 10 commandments of successful product development. So far, you have heard the successful product developments of different people, including Mr. Gautam Morey today. So, what all is needed for the first time, right? Product development, then standards, then certifications, and so many things are involved in a successful marketable product. So, Vijay Ghate, with having R&D experience with Philips India, will definitely share his knowledge and experience on successful 10 commandments for product development. So don't miss that opportunity on 3rd October at 10 o'clock in the morning. So I will say goodbye to everybody. Have a wonderful day. Happy Ganesh Visarjan, and see you on 3rd October, Sunday at 10 o'clock. Bye-bye. Have a nice day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank
Thank you.
you. Gautam ji, can you
Bye-bye.
stop recording?
Yeah.
Yeah.